Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kasha for those of you who are new here, and welcome to this video. So today we are going to be talking about all about mom struggles, what you guys struggle with as moms. I asked you guys on my Instagram a couple days ago, what are some things that you struggle with as a mom? And there were definitely a lot of similarities, and I just wanted to do a sit down video talking about all these struggles. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the way I thought about structuring this video is I made a little cheat sheet. So if you see me looking down, that's why. And basically it includes all the points that I want to talk about. So basically we'll talk about the topic. Maybe I'll give you an example from my own life, and then I'm gonna try to give you guys a tip for how I personally try to deal with it, handle it, make it less of a struggle, if you will. But everything that I say should be taken very lightly, because obviously just by following the tips alone, being a mom is hard. The days are hard. There are better days, there are tougher days, but overall there are struggles. These struggles are a constant thing that we have in our day-to-day life. So you can use these to maybe ease some of these struggles for yourself, but obviously everything is very individual, what works for you. If you're a mom and you're listening to this right now and you find some of these tips helpful, let me know in the comments below. Or maybe if you have some tips of your own that you try to do and implement to maybe help ease some of these struggles for yourself, also comment them down below. I would love to know what they are. I think everyone would love to read them. So without further ado, let's get into it. First thing that I want to talk about as a topic in general is feelings of being overwhelmed and being anxious. So I think for me personally, these feelings of being overwhelmed and being anxious happen a lot when I am having a lack of sleep, and when I am feeling extra tired, extra exhausted. This is when really those feelings of anxiety and just overstimulation and feeling like there's an overflowing to-do list set in. Obviously I feel these feelings on a day-to-day basis, but I'm just saying they are triggered more when I am not sleeping as well. So the biggest tip that I have for this and how you can deal with feelings of being overwhelmed and anxious when there's a long to-do list, you feel like you have to, you have to do the grocery shopping, you have to do the laundry, you have to take care of your kid, maybe your kid's screaming, you put them in front of the TV, but then all of a sudden other things are happening and you just feel overstimulated because of all the noises and things around you. So the biggest thing that I find helps me with these feelings is creating a to-do list and writing a to-do list, possibly if possible the night before, especially if you're not one to wake up before your kids. I personally do not wake up before my kiddo. I have one little baby boy, as you guys know. His name is Joey. He's 21 months old, and I'm a first-time mom, and I just, maybe in the future with more kids, I will wake up before them, but right now this works for me, helps me get some extra sleep. And so I like to write my to-do list the night before, just because I know that when he wakes up and when we're both up, it's going to get hectic, it's going to get crazy. Some days he wakes up in a good mood, but there are days that he does not, and he requires more attention, and he wants more loving, and he wants more hugs and kisses, and he just needs that one-on-one independent time with me, which is totally normal. So that is why getting it done the night before, it just kind of helps you visualize the day, because otherwise I find that if that to-do list is not there and in place, if it's just all up here, which every mom thinks they remember everything, and moms do. Moms remember a lot. I feel like our brain capacity grows, but at the same time it shrinks, because you have that mom brain. You forget, you think but then you go to the store and you don't, and then you forget, and then you get angry at yourself that you forgot. And just to avoid all of that, write it down, put it on somewhere where you can see. For us, it's the dining room table typically, and I can just see it. I know what I have to do. So in a moment that I have some free time, or I'm feeling overwhelmed and I don't know what I should be doing next, or what I could take care of now as a mom, chores, everything piles up. I have a to-do list, I look at it, and I feel more organized and put together, if that makes sense. And it just kind of eases that frustration. It doesn't totally eliminate it, it just eases it, you know what I mean? Anyways, this kind of falls into the next one, and that would be time management. So how do you manage your time? How do you get this to-do list done? How do you provide for your family and get everything you need to get done whilst taking care of your kiddos? So for me, this one I think is definitely categorizing things you can do while your child sleeps and takes a nap, and things that you can do when they are awake. So for me personally, ever since I started doing my YouTube, my biggest thing that I do while Joey naps, and again, this is so individual, is that I edit all of my YouTube videos when he is napping. That is just something I cannot do when he is awake. It is harder to do when he's awake, almost I would say impossible to do when he's awake. So that is what I do when he's sleeping. Most other chores I choose to do when he is awake though. So I think for a lot of moms, especially if you work from home, you can do the chores that include work and like getting stuff done related to that during your child's sleep time, nap time, and then trying to get all the other things done while they're awake. Yes, it is harder when they are awake. Like for example, I do usually try to even cook dinner when Joey's awake. Some days if I really don't have anything going on, like too much of an extensive to-do list, I will do it when he's sleeping, but I try to do it when he's awake just because I know I can do it when he's awake. I know I can fold laundry when he's awake. I know I can clean when he's awake. He sees me doing it. It kind of almost gives him an activity and like something to take his mind off of maybe being like bored and wanting to throw a meltdown or, you know, act out, because, you know, kids act out, they have tantrums, but sometimes to help like occupy them and keep them engaged, you can clean with them. And yes, it's harder, but it's not nearly impossible. So categorizing your nap time and then categorizing your awake time. Now, this also kind of goes into the what if my kiddo doesn't take naps, or what if I don't want to do everything during their nap time. All valid things. You want to create time for yourself. You want to have alone time. You want to have time to give yourself love and attention, because that is also just as important as giving those around you your love and attention. And if you're not happy, if you don't feel like you're taken care of, I think that definitely does reflect on your family and how everyone kind of like works together. You are the glue to the crew and you need to take care of yourself. But if you have a kiddo that doesn't nap, I would definitely say maybe try implementing quiet time. My son is obviously still not old enough for quiet time. He still is taking naps. He takes a 3-hour nap basically every single day. I am very lucky and fortunate that he does this. I know that he won't do this forever, but my goal and intention for the near future, when he slowly starts to not nap, hopefully they last for a couple more years, but when he doesn't nap, my goal will be to try doing quiet time. So maybe look into how you should do that, read something about it, how to implement it. I know some moms use like the Hatch sound machine because you can change the colors of it and programs on it. So we have the Hatch sound machine and we love it, and I think my plan is for the near future to just like, once Joey is older and is not taking naps and can comprehend what I'm trying to really teach him, especially with like the whole color signals thing, I'm going to try to do that, like showing him we're gonna stay in your room for this much time, quiet time, mommy has alone time type of thing. But obviously every kiddo is different. It won't work for every child. Find what works for you and maybe try to implement that quiet time. Now, let's say your child is still taking naps, but you don't want to do everything during their awake time. This, I think, just comes down to the fact that we have to find balance. I don't think I have found balance. I don't think I ever will. It is so hard. It is just something that I feel like all families work through, and this is one of the tougher things that we have to deal with every single day as moms. And sometimes we just have to sacrifice that alone time to get our work done or to do something productive around the house. Like we have to cook dinner because we can't afford to eat out today, or I have to do the laundry because I can't just go to the store and buy more clothes. We don't have any more clothes to wear, so I have to wash them. And I think maybe you can pick a couple days out of the week that you do work things and try to get the bulk of that done, and then maybe a couple other days during the week you do chores, or maybe you mix and match what you're doing that day. But again, writing that to-do list and really seeing what you absolutely have to get done will really help, because then if you have time left over, or maybe your kiddo is really good at independent play and you can teach them, you know, and slowly start to show them, okay, mom is going to be doing this, do you want to help me? Include them in the activities that you're doing. I try to do that with Joey, hence how I get some things done when he's awake, like doing the laundry or cooking. I engage him. Screen time is not always the worst thing in the world either. I won't judge you if you do it. I do it. I even give it to Joey when he is having a tantrum sometimes, and there's really no other way for me to handle the situation. It just sometimes makes life easier, but it still is very, very hard. So definitely a struggle I think every mom has. Now, going into the next thing that I want to talk about is how to create alone time and create time for yourself and just kind of have that sense that you are also taking care of yourself and not just your family all the time. So I think for this one, I will share my own example with it. So for us, Joe, my husband, he works full-time. He works Monday through Saturday. The only day he's home is on Sundays. So on Sundays, sometimes it is very hard and almost impossible to really schedule in and have true alone time. Like, let's say go to get my nails done or go to get whatever it is that I want for myself done, or maybe what I want for that specific day is just to have the whole entire house to myself. So sometimes I can do that if I ask Joe to take him out, or sometimes something as simple as going to the store by myself while Joe is home with him, getting him ready, feeding him breakfast. That is what I classify as my alone time, because it's just not always possible to go and get out and get your nails done, because those types of things are expensive, or maybe that's just not what I want to do in that moment with my time. I don't want to sit in a chair and get my nails done for 2 hours, and it's kind of almost like a waste of time for me because I want to be doing stuff. So it's just kind of about finding that balance, just the ease of not having to load your kids in and out of the car, having to go to the store with them. I enjoy going to the store with Joey, but once in a while, if I get to go by myself, I love it, even just to go pick up some coffee. Or maybe it's we decide to eat out this morning and we get breakfast out and I go pick up the breakfast, just little things like that. And then also definitely I would say ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for it, accept the help, ask for it. I personally, my mom watches Joey once a week for me currently. Right now over the summer it's on Wednesdays. I drop Joey off in the morning and then he comes home in the evening, and it just kind of gives me a day to recharge, regain some headspace. I do whatever it is that I want to do during this time that I'm all by myself without my husband or my kiddo home. So if you are able to have help, have it. It's just impossible to do everything by yourself, and sometimes that is just what you need to do to have alone time. Now, something that I also try to implement, and I encourage all of you to do, is really schedule in time during the week that you better yourself physically. And what I mean by this is sometimes when we feel better physically, we also feel better mentally. And our mental health as moms is so important, because sometimes we feel isolated and we feel like we have to carry the weight of the whole family, and we feel maybe underappreciated, or we feel like someone else is not doing as much as we are. And for me, what I do to kind of help myself with that is I try to at night give myself some self-care time. I know that no matter how tired I am, if I have my legs shaved, or if I paint my nails, or if I work out a couple times a week, I feel better physically. And when I feel better physically, I feel better mentally. And I would definitely encourage all of you to do that, is to do something for yourself of the sorts that will help you feel better physically, because it will really reflect on your mental health. So that is my tip when it comes to that. And again, everything is balanced. I don't have all the alone time I would want in the world. I don't have nearly as much alone time as I would want, but just little bits and pieces of pockets of your time, because it really is, I think, for most moms impossible to schedule in alone time. I think it will help. Even just getting out of the house without anyone with you, I think that is helpful. Sorry you guys, I had to put my blanket on because I'm cold, and I had to move my feet because they were starting to fall asleep. But now getting into the next topic of this video, which is postpartum rage, anger, and experiencing partner resentment. So I think all of these are very valid mom worries and struggles, and just how to handle our emotions in general, especially when we are just exhausted and tired and we just really desperately want to break, but there is no break in sight because we have to get up and do it all over again the next day. So for me personally, I have definitely struggled with postpartum rage and anger ever since having Joey. I definitely think that a big factor that plays into this, probably one of the biggest ones, is the sleep deprivation and just being tired and exhausted all the time. I even told Joe one day I wish I could just sleep for a full 12 hours, or literally not be woken up by anything, and see how long my body would just keep going back to sleep for, because I feel like I could sleep forever. But that's besides the point right now. Basically what I'm trying to say is, in the heat of the moment when you're tired and you are exhausted, you might have the urge to yell. You might have the urge to be angry. You might get angry. I know I do. And I think the biggest thing and the biggest tip that I have for this is communicating this to your partner and really letting them know that right now in this moment you feel overwhelmed. You feel like you can't handle whatever it is that's going on, and asking for their help and explaining to them why you feel like this, and kind of having them understand your emotions a bit better, just so they know that it's not always a personal attack on them. It's just kind of like you are just so overwhelmed and you just might get angry and explode at the littlest thing. And this is by no means like trying to rival with your partner and saying I do more than you do, or vice versa, or whatever the situation is. It's just kind of about, again, the communication and trying to come together and say, we are a team and we work together, and right now I need you to pick up some of my slack. It's just kind of like, that's how I see it. Now, let's say you're experiencing these feelings when you're just with your kiddos and your partner's nowhere in sight, or no help is anywhere in sight, and you're just alone, typical day with your kids, you're feeling overwhelmed, you get angry. How do you deal with this? I think the biggest thing I have learned is sometimes just walking away from the situation, even if it is that you have a screaming kid in the room. Walking away, taking a really big, deep breath sometimes helps so much. It kind of almost like calms you. You get in that extra oxygen, and it might just open up some clearness and keep you from exploding. Because sometimes it's kind of like, how do you not explode on a toddler who's having a meltdown, who's screaming? And you feed off that energy, and it's natural that you want to almost like scream and explode too. But you as the parent are the one who's told you have to stay calm, you have to, relax, and your calm will feed their calm. I do agree with that. I think that definitely as the parent, we need to be trying to stay calm, and your kiddos feed off the energy that you're giving. I definitely think that's true. But sometimes it's just, as humans, it's very impossible to always control our emotions and not let our emotions get the best of us. So just leaving the situation, taking a deep breath, and kind of like regaining yourself mentally, and then going back into the room. Now, sometimes let's say you do explode, and I know I definitely have. I've exploded before, and you feel so bad about it. I think just learning from that mistake, learning from that anger, and just trying to tell yourself and just reflecting on it mentally afterwards, I think might help prevent a similar situation from happening, or lessening a situation like that in the future, if that makes sense. Just kind of reflecting on it, really thinking what triggered that, what happened, what could I do, what could I have done better. For me especially, it's realizing that like I can't control my kids' emotions. My kids' emotions are their emotions, and even if I think that like reasoning with them might help, sometimes depending on their age, that is just not feasible. Like you can't reason with a little 2-year-old. I think also sometimes in those really big feelings of like anger, I will use screen time as an escape. I don't do this every single day, because really big meltdowns don't necessarily happen every single day, and sometimes I have the energy to deal with it and sometimes I don't, if that makes sense. But in a moment that I don't have the energy to really deal with it, I just allow myself to turn on the TV, and that just kind of gives me like 30 or so minutes to recoup myself. Hopefully my child is in one place and I can just kind of maybe even just sit there with them and not worry about anything else for that minute, because that is what I need for my mental health. And I think that is just the biggest tip that I have for handling these emotions, is I think these emotions are valid, and trying to not explode every single time they happen. And it's hard, and I don't have a proper answer for that. I just think acknowledging that it's hard and trying to find what calms you in a situation like that. And I think the reflection of it afterward is also very helpful. Like sometimes I'll be driving in the car and I think to myself, okay, I in the future want to handle a situation like this better, because I saw that by the way I reacted, it didn't help better the situation, and it didn't provide the result that I would have wanted it to provide. And I think that's just a lot of the times it's just really the staying calm. It's hard to do, but it really is the best answer. But it's hard, especially when you're tired. It's so hard. And the last thing that I want to talk about in this video is the whole like partner resentment aspect of things. And I think this is definitely valid. I think this is something that affects a lot of families, and I do want to give this my time to talk about it, because I think it's definitely a valid point of concern. concern, and like a lot of people deal with this. So I think especially if you're like a stay-at-home mom and you know, your partner goes into work and works a 9 to 5, and you know, they're not home with the kids all day, and you feel like you're dealing with more problems than they are, or maybe your partner works from home and you're also a stay-at-home mom, but the fact that they're at work during that time and you are still at home putting up with the tantrums, the meltdowns, you know, it can be a lot. So I definitely do experience this. This has gotten pretty stressful for us at times, especially when Joe was doing school and I was doing school. And so for us personally, I think my biggest tip for the whole partner resentment thing is really just openly communicating with your partner, letting them know your emotions. Don't just dust them under the covers. Talk to them about it. Be very vocal and explain to them, and just saying, if you really feel like your partner is not helping you enough, definitely vocalize it. For some couples, I have seen that some couples choose to do like all house chores together if they are a home. So if that works for you, that's great. And what I mean by that is like, you know, you do the dishes together, you clean up together, everything you do together, so that way you don't feel like your significant other is doing more or less than you, if that makes sense. But for Joe and I personally, what we do is we do kind of have chores that each of us take care of, just because Joe is not home during the majority of the week. He is really only home on Sundays, and then he's home at nights. So like, for example, he's the one who's in charge of like cleaning up the kitchen at night, like the dishwasher, the trash, like things like that. Like we have set chores that each and every single one of us take care of, and we hold each other accountable to doing those things. Because for me personally, I know that, okay, I did this and this many things during the day, so now since you came home, you will take care of this. And it's also just kind of about sometimes putting aside, like, I don't know, like your ego or what you would call it, but it's just kind of like looking at each other as a team and just knowing that you are both working together, and it's not a competition. It's not like who's more tired today, even though you might think you're more tired, or you're like, stop saying that you're more tired because I'm more tired because I was dealing with all the tantrums. It's kind of like sometimes putting that all aside and just thinking to yourself, it's okay, we're working as a team and we are bettering our family, and everything has to get done regardless of who does it. And I'll help you out here if you help me out here, and just kind of like vice versa, if that makes sense. Like, I don't have a huge tip on this. I just think this comes down to every relationship. It's unique to every relationship, and you have to communicate and you have to find what works for you. I also think implementing a routine is not necessarily a bad thing, and just kind of going from there. Anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to this video. I hope that you guys just found it helpful and found it comforting that moms deal with similar situations. You're never alone. We share struggles with everyone and similar struggles, and not every household is the same, but still, like, similar issues always come up. I always find it very comforting to hear things like that, so I hope that you did too. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you have any tips that you implement or how you deal with some of these struggles. I would love to read all of them, as I am sure all of you would too. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, which is always awesome.